A city under siege, a population on the run. 4 years after a hopeful revolution, Sudan's war has reached a catastrophic new phase.
First a revolution confiscated, then a dispute between coup leaders that became a civil war.
Sudan's modern history has been a revolving door of military power. Generals took governments before. In 2019, mass protests finally toppled Omar al-Bashir. But the structures that anchored Bashir's rule did not disappear. Two armed forces, the Sudan Armed Forces, SAF, and the Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, that once fought alongside each other, hardened into rivals. When they turned their weapons inward, civilians paid the price.
The journey here was so difficult. We were thirsty. We had to hide for 3 days. Even the children had nothing to eat.
Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, a career army man, and Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo, known as Hemeti, the paramilitary leader who rose from Darfur's militias, once allied to remove Bashir. But alliances turned to competition: territory, gold, international patrons, and the future of Sudan. A power-sharing deal was supposed to move Sudan to civilian rule, but disagreements over integrating the RSF into the national army created an impossible wedge.
The RSF as a cancer to the state apparatus that was created by al-Bashir regime and the Muslim Brotherhood regime to protect their regime to continue existing in Sudan. Of course, there are crimes committed in war by the two parties, but there is a reason of why people are fleeing from the RSF-controlled areas to the SAF-controlled areas. We have to be pragmatic here about ensuring peace and stability. Go back to Sudan.
Negotiations failed. By April 2023, the RSF and SAF were openly at war. El-Fasher, North Darfur's capital and the final major city to fall in the west, was under siege for months. When RSF forces finally seized the city, survivors described mass killings, sexual violence, and bodies in the streets. Aid agencies warn that famine and disease followed fast behind the bullets. Estimates vary, but independent reporting and UN officials warn of tens of thousands killed and more than 14 million displaced since the war began, the largest displacement crisis in the world. Food insecurity has surged. Parts of Darfur and Kordofan now face catastrophic hunger. Meanwhile, both sides entrench, the SAF with its air power, the RSF with its ground networks and financial sources. Human rights groups and UN investigators warn of crimes under international law, mass killings, targeted ethnic attacks, sexual violence, and call for urgent accountability. As evidence mounts, survivors ask, who will answer for what happened? The 2019 revolution promised civilian rule and an end to decades of militarized repression. Instead, many protesters feel betrayed. First by the generals who led the transition, then by a world that urged compromise, even as the two generals consolidated power. The result, a generation that won the streets and lost the state.
They killed our really good friend Matar. And they took dead bodies and they threw them in the Nile.
But without safe corridors for aid, verified ceasefires and mechanisms to prevent fresh massacres, the immediate future looks bleak. Sudan's revolution, its people's dream, may be postponed indefinitely unless the world acts to protect civilians first.
Peace is the most courageous, the most practical, the most necessary pursuit of all. And in building the United Nations, they created something extraordinary, a place where all nations, large and small, could come together to solve problems that no country can solve alone. And yet, at this moment, the principles of the United Nations are under assault as never before.